The call to see the world with new eyes. There comes a moment in life when the world itself seems to whisper, inviting you to see it differently. It is not a voice coming from outside, but a gentle echo rising from within. It feels as though a quiet part of your soul already knows there is far more beyond what your eyes can currently touch. If this call resonates in your chest right now, allow yourself to remain here, in this space. And before we begin, take a moment to subscribe to this channel and like this video, so that you not only receive more content that nourishes your soul, but also help spread these reflections to others who might, in this very moment, be longing for them more than they realize. What we are about to explore together are 9 profound philosophical ideas capable of transforming how you perceive life, time, and even your own existence. These are not merely ancient theories or abstract thoughts. They are living keys, waiting to unlock inner doors you may have never noticed before. Each concept we will uncover carries the potential to shift not only the way you think, but also the depth with which you feel every passing moment. This is not an invitation to collect distant knowledge, but rather a gentle call to dive into reflections that directly touch your own story. As each idea unfolds, you may quietly ask yourself, where does this fit within my life? What hidden paths in me does this illuminate? This journey is less about accumulating ready-made answers and more about awakening something that has been quietly waiting inside you. But for centuries, philosophy has been the art of asking questions that expand horizons. And perhaps what you find here will not be definitive certainties, but instead new ways of looking at every silence, every doubt that has ever visited your mind. This is the space where questioning transforms from a burden into a gateway, a doorway to freedom. While the outer world rushes endlessly, here, within these words, time begins to soften and stretch, creating a quiet refuge where each phrase finds room to settle gently into your heart. There is no need to hurry to understand what is essential. Each pause, each breath you take, becomes part of the learning. And by the end of this journey, something subtle yet permanent in the way you feel may have shifted, without noise, but with undeniable presence. Allow yourself to listen with an open heart. Do not seek to understand everything at once. Simply walk with me. As we move through the next chapters together, you will begin to see that these ideas are not locked away in books. They are alive within you, waiting patiently to be remembered. Today, transformation may begin with something as simple as this: choosing to open yourself, to see the world with new eyes. The first window, questioning the self. To truly begin this journey, we must first turn inward and ask the simplest yet most profound of questions. Who am I? This inquiry, though appearing almost childlike in its simplicity, echoes through centuries of philosophy. From Socrates, who proclaimed that an unexamined life is not worth living, to modern thinkers who challenge the very concept of identity itself. What is it that you call I? Is it merely a body? A collection of thoughts? A story told by memory? Or could it be something far deeper? Something beyond all of these layers? But the power within this first philosophical idea lies in remembering that we are never static beings. We are in constant motion, reshaped by every experience, every choice, every wound and every moment of joy we encounter. When you ask yourself, "Who am I?" you begin to realize the answer is never fixed. It evolves as you evolve. And that realization carries an immense freedom. If you are not unchangeable, then you hold within you the ability to recreate yourself again and again, whenever life calls for renewal. Here, a quiet invitation arises. What if the self you cling to is in truth a delicate construction woven from shifting memories and fleeting perceptions? Philosophy suggests the self is like a river, never identical from one moment to the next. This reframes how we meet our own limitations and mistakes. If we are rivers in motion, then no moment defines us forever. Every present instant becomes an opening to begin anew, to flow toward a different horizon. This realization can transform your relationship with the past. You do not have to continue carrying the old definitions that others once placed upon you. If they told you that you were incapable, small, or without a voice, perhaps those words were never truth, but only reflections of a passing moment in time. The river you are has already moved beyond that bend. And when you see this clearly, space opens for you to author a new story about yourself, one rooted not in what was, but in what is becoming. This first philosophical window does not demand immediate answers. Rather, it offers a doorway to ongoing contemplation. Questioning the self is not about losing who you are. It is about uncovering the freedom to choose who you wish to become. It is the first step, quiet yet profoundly transformative, in shifting the way you perceive both the world and your place within it. As you reflect on the question, "Who am I?" notice how it echoes beyond the boundaries of the individual. It hints at deeper connections, threads that link you to others and to the living universe itself. If all within you is in constant motion, perhaps the world is too. And learning to sense this shared movement may guide you closer to a quieter, truer form of wisdom that waits patiently beyond words. The second window, time as an illusion. Among the most challenging ideas in philosophy lies the notion that time, at least as we commonly perceive it, might be an illusion. Augustine once asked, "What is time? If no one asks me, I know. But if I am asked to explain, I no longer know." This question echoes across centuries, from classical thought to modern theories in physics, and invites us to wonder, are the past, present, and future truly as separate as they seem? Or are they threads of the same fabric, perceived differently by our minds? For many philosophers and scientists, time is not a straight line, but rather a vast field where everything coexists simultaneously. What we call past might still be alive within us, influencing our choices, shaping our emotions, while the future might already be whispering its possibilities in the present moment. This perspective changes how we view both memory and expectation. Perhaps the present is the only space that is truly alive, the only canvas upon which real creation happens. When you begin to perceive time as a mental construct, The weight of what has been and the anxiety for what is to come can begin to loosen their grip. Life feels lighter when you realize you no longer need to race against the clock. Instead of running, you can learn to dance with it, to sense the rhythm of each passing moment without the fear of wasting time pressing down on you. This vision also invites us to reconsider how we value our experiences. If the present holds the seeds of the future and the echoes of the past, then every second becomes sacred. Each breath you take could be the subtle turning point that alters the entire course of your story. This is one of the greatest freedoms philosophy offers: the ability to perceive the eternal hidden within the fleeting. As you dive deeper into this concept, patterns begin to emerge. Subtle synchronicities, meaningful coincidences, unexpected meetings that somehow arrive at just the right time. Perhaps none of it is random at all. Perhaps it is all part of a quiet harmony, one that linear time cannot explain, but your inner sense can feel. Allow this idea to rest within you without rushing to conclusions. This is not about denying time's existence, but about seeing beyond its surface. When you open yourself to this possibility, presence begins to blossom, gratitude deepens, and you may discover with profound simplicity that the only time we have ever truly possessed is now. The third window, reality as a reflection of consciousness. Imagine for a moment that the world you see is not truly the world as it is, but rather the world as you perceive it. This idea, echoed across both Eastern and Western philosophical traditions, challenges us to consider: could reality itself be a mirror, reflecting back the inner patterns we carry within us? If what we see is filtered through beliefs, memories, and emotions, then perhaps transforming our consciousness is the first step toward transforming the world we inhabit. Plato, in his timeless allegory of the cave, described prisoners who knew nothing beyond the shadows projected on the wall. Shadows they believed to be the entirety of reality. Centuries later, modern neuroscience arrives at a similar conclusion. Our senses do not reveal everything that exists, but only what our brain filters and deems significant for survival. What does this say about the world we so confidently call real? If reality is shaped by perception, then every emotion we nurture changes the landscape of what we see. A person holding on to anger will inevitably find reasons to distrust the world, while one who cultivates gratitude will encounter reasons to smile. In this light, philosophy is no longer distant or abstract. It becomes profoundly practical. To change how we see is to change what is seen, opening a vast space for inner freedom and creative possibility. This idea also illuminates the collective impact of consciousness. If individual thoughts shape perception, what happens when countless minds unite in similar beliefs? Entire societies can be transformed for chaos or for harmony, depending on the quality of the inner narratives they collectively uphold. The shared field of thought is, in many ways, the soil from which culture itself grows. Perhaps this is why so many spiritual and philosophical traditions insist on the necessity of self-knowledge. When we begin to recognize our own filters, we stop mistaking our projections for reality. We awaken to the quiet power of choosing what to nurture within us, and through that choice, what we reflect outward into the world around us. As you sit with this idea, allow a quiet question to surface. What reflection does the world receive from me today? Perhaps life is not solely about what happens to us, but about how we choose to look at what happens. And in that silent choice, we uncover a key, one capable of reshaping not just our perception, but the very story we are living. The fourth window. Everything is connected. There is an invisible thread that weaves through everything that exists. From the tiniest grain of sand to the most distant star shimmering in the night sky, there is a silent dance of interdependence unfolding at every moment. Eastern philosophy calls this principle interbeing. Modern physics refers to it as quantum entanglement. In both languages, ancient and modern, the message remains the same. Nothing exists in isolation. Everything vibrates in relation to everything else. When we begin to truly understand this connection, the way we view our actions transforms. A single word of kindness can ripple out far beyond what we imagine. Just as a careless gesture can sow invisible waves of pain that stretch farther than we will ever see. This awareness calls us into a deeper sense of responsibility, but also into profound compassion. If we are all bound together, then the good I offer to another inevitably finds its way back to me. The Stoics spoke of this long ago, describing humanity as parts of one vast cosmic body. Each person a living cell in the greater organism we call life. When one part suffers, the entire body feels the ache. When one part heals, the whole system grows stronger. This vision dissolves the illusion of separation and quietly asks us, how can I nurture the web to which I belong? This understanding also explains why we feel the weight of injustices in the world, even when they do not touch us directly. It is the echo of interconnection, a resonance that hums beneath our awareness. When another being suffers, something within us recognizes that suffering. And when someone is liberated or overjoyed, we too feel a spark of that joy. Philosophy in this light becomes a gentle invitation to widen our circle of care far beyond ourselves. In times marked by individualism and hurry, remembering this invisible web becomes an act of quiet revolution. It transforms every choice we make. What we consume, the words we speak, the thoughts we cultivate in silence, into seeds that shape something far larger than us. Life stops being merely mine and begins to feel deeply ours. And that simple shift changes everything. Allow this perception to settle softly within you. You have never truly been alone. Every breath you take is shared, with trees, with oceans, with animals, and with countless other lives you may never meet. To understand this is to recognize that even the smallest gesture carries meaning. To connect with the whole is, at its deepest level, to reconnect with yourself. The fifth window, meaning as both creation and discovery. Among all the questions humanity has ever asked, perhaps none is as persistent or as quietly haunting as this. What is the meaning of life? For centuries, philosophers, mystics, and poets have searched for answers. Some claim that meaning is already given, woven into the fabric of existence. Others insist that it is ours to create, a tapestry we weave moment by moment. This tension between discovering and inventing is precisely what makes the search for meaning so deeply human and paradoxically so liberating. Nietzsche spoke of creating one's own values in a world stripped of absolute truths. Viktor Frankl, a survivor of concentration camps, reminded us that finding purpose was what made life bearable, even amid unimaginable suffering. Though separated by time and circumstance, both pointed toward the same quiet force. When we assign meaning to what we live through, even pain transforms into a pathway, a teacher rather than a prison. Yet there is something subtle we often forget. Meaning does not have to be grand or distant. It can live in the smallest things, in caring for someone you love, in learning something new, in cultivating a quiet ritual of presence each day. When we stop demanding perfect answers and instead choose to live authentic questions, meaning begins to reveal itself in the margins of daily life, gently, almost unnoticed. This philosophical window invites us to free life's meaning from the burden of being final or absolute. Meaning can shift, evolve, and ripen as we walk our path. What felt purposeful yesterday might not hold the same weight tomorrow. And that is not failure, it is growth. The search never truly ends. It renews itself again and again, as long as we are alive to keep asking. As you contemplate your own sense of purpose, ask softly, what makes me feel alive today? The answer may not come as a shout, but as a whisper. Philosophy, when brought into daily life, is less about grand theories and more about intimacy with one's own soul, about recognizing what stirs your heart, even in the most ordinary of days. When you realize that meaning can be both created and discovered, a subtle weight begins to dissolve. You no longer need to wait for some ultimate revelation to live meaningfully. Every conscious gesture, every moment of presence is already part of building your purpose. And perhaps it is this very simplicity, the weaving of significance into daily moments, that makes life so quietly profound. The sixth window, freedom and the weight of our choices. Existentialist philosophy, from Sartre to Kierkegaard, teaches us that we are radically free, and that freedom, while a blessing, is also a profound weight. To choose is inevitable. Even refusing to choose is in itself a choice. With every decision, we write the story we will live. And this truth places in our hands both extraordinary power and undeniable responsibility. Often, we dream of freedom without realizing its gravity. To be free means we can no longer blame fate, circumstances, or even other people for the paths we walk. It means looking directly at our own lives and admitting, I am the author. This realization can be frightening because it removes excuses, but it can also awaken immense courage. For if we are authors, we hold the pen to rewrite chapters that no longer serve us. This philosophical insight invites us to face the consequences of our choices without turning away. Every action, every word, every silence, all of it ripples outward into the world. Once we grasp this, we can no longer live on autopilot. Freedom stops being about doing whatever I want and begins to mean choosing what holds true value. But the responsibility born from freedom is not a burden forced upon us by something outside, but rather an inner call. It is the quiet realization that in every moment we are given the chance to align our lives with what we hold as true. And even when we make mistakes, as all humans do, we are free to adjust, to begin again. Life is shaped by this ongoing dance, choosing, learning, and choosing anew. Philosophy also warns us of a subtle trap, the temptation to surrender freedom out of fear of deciding. When we follow only what is expected, we abandon authenticity and begin to live someone else's life. Yet when we dare to choose with awareness, even when the choice feels difficult, we discover a kind of peace that blind obedience can never offer. Let this idea echo gently within you. You have the power to choose who you become. It is rarely easy, but it is always possible. Freedom is not the absence of limits. It is the ability to create new paths within them. And when we truly understand this, the world ceases to be a prison and opens instead into an endless horizon. The seventh window, impermanence and the value of the present. One of the oldest and often most difficult truths to accept is this: everything changes. Heraclitus once said, "No man ever steps into the same river twice, for neither the man nor the river are the same." This insight flows through countless philosophical and spiritual traditions. Impermanence is the very essence of life. Nothing is fixed. Nothing remains unchanged. And it is precisely this truth that makes each fleeting moment so precious. When we deny impermanence, suffering follows. We try desperately to hold on to what we love, fearing it will slip away. We resist what hurts, forgetting that it too will pass. Philosophy invites us to soften our grip and shift our gaze. Rather than fighting against change, we can learn to dance with it. To embrace the flow is to become lighter, more present, more alive to the moment unfolding before us. This understanding transforms our relationship with now. If everything is transitory, the present moment becomes nothing less than miraculous. Today's embrace, this quiet silence, the sunrise you witnessed this very morning, none of it will ever repeat in exactly the same way again. Instead of waiting for extraordinary events to feel gratitude for life, we begin to honor what is already here, quietly, patiently, in front of us. Impermanence also frees us from the fear of mistakes and failure. If nothing is final, every experience becomes a teacher. We can stumble and begin again. We can lose and discover anew. Life is not a fixed line, but a flowing current. And it is precisely this movement that allows us to grow, to evolve, to continually recreate ourselves. In a world that constantly pushes us to rush ahead, impermanence whispers an invitation to pause, to feel each breath as unique, to notice that even within our simplest routines, hidden beauty waits quietly to be seen. When we live this way, we discover that peace is not found in controlling time, but in welcoming what it brings. Accepting that everything changes reveals a paradox. It is impermanence itself that gives life its meaning. If everything lasted forever, nothing would hold value. The present is precious precisely because it passes. And when we truly understand this, we stop postponing life for someday and begin to live it fully, tenderly, now. The eighth window, the paradox of ignorance and knowledge. Socrates famously said, "I know that I know nothing." At first glance, this statement may seem almost playful in its simplicity, yet it holds one of philosophy's most profound paradoxes. The more we learn, the more we become aware of the vastness of what remains unknown. True knowledge is never arrogant. It is humble. It reminds us that every answer inevitably opens new questions, and that wisdom begins not in certainty, but in the willingness to keep learning. This paradox challenges us to let go of the illusion of absolute control. We crave certainty because it makes us feel safe, yet life is ultimately a field of mystery. When we can embrace this reality, something remarkable happens. Anxiety softens. We no longer feel pressured to possess all the answers. Instead, we become open to what each unfolding experience can teach us moment by moment. Modern philosophy and contemporary science share this humility. Even amid extraordinary breakthroughs, the greatest scientists acknowledge that the universe remains far more mysterious than any theory can fully capture. And this awareness does not diminish us. It expands us. Every discovery becomes less an ending and more an invitation to keep exploring, with curiosity and reverence rather than pride. On a personal level, this idea invites us to cultivate what Zen practice calls beginner's mind, an outlook that, even after years of experience, stays curious, open, and willing to learn anew. Living this way allows us to find beauty in details, depth in questions, and renewal in ordinary life. Conscious ignorance is not weakness. It is the open door to the infinite. It also reminds us that true knowledge transforms, but not to inflate the ego, rather to soften it. Genuine understanding should make us more compassionate, not more distant. When we realize how much we do not know, we begin to see others with less judgment and far more empathy, recognizing that everyone walks through life carrying unanswered questions of their own. Accepting that we never know anything completely is the first step toward authentic wisdom. It is what opens us to surprise, wonder, and the possibility of constant growth. In the end, perhaps the greatest gift of knowledge is precisely this: returning us to the humble, curious gaze with which we first arrived in this world. A gaze ready to marvel, to learn, and to be changed. The ninth window and the closing. The unity of thinking, feeling, and living. We arrive at the final idea of this journey. The understanding that thinking, feeling, and living are inseparable. Philosophy is not merely a distant reflection reserved for books or debates. It is a way of being in the world. Every question we ask, every silence we honor, every partial answer we uncover shapes not only our mind, but also our heart and our daily actions. True wisdom arises in the quiet moment when what we understand becomes what we embody. Through these 9 windows, we have contemplated the self in constant transformation, time as illusion, reality as a reflection of consciousness. the hidden interconnectedness of all things, the search for meaning, the freedom of choice, the impermanence of the present, the paradox of knowledge, and now, the unity that binds them all together. Each idea is not an ending, but an opening, an invitation to see the ordinary world through extraordinary eyes. Perhaps you have noticed that these ideas were never meant to hand you final answers, but rather to awaken something within. The courage to question, the humility to keep learning, and the quiet beauty of simply being present. When we live this way, the world ceases to be just a backdrop. It becomes a mirror, an invitation, and a path unfolding beneath our feet. This is the true power of philosophy, to transform perception into presence and presence into conscious action. It is to carry into every gesture of daily life the remembrance that we are both part of something far greater and authors of our own unfolding story. It is to realize that each moment, even the simplest one, is an opportunity to recreate ourselves, and through that, to recreate the world around us. As you breathe in this very moment, you may notice something within you has shifted, not because you have found every answer, but because new questions have quietly come alive. And it is these questions, alive, open, luminous, that keep the flame burning. The flame that lights the search for meaning, for truth, and for love. It is this flame that makes your life both profoundly unique and yet undeniably part of everything. If these reflections have touched something in you, consider subscribing to this channel and sharing this video with someone who might need to be reminded that life can be seen with new eyes. Each subscription and each share spreads this quiet light and may spark change in someone's life in ways you cannot yet imagine. Keep walking, keep contemplating, keep transforming. The horizon is yours. The world is a mirror, and philosophy now lives quietly within your gaze. And so, see you in the next video with more information on everything that involves growing, evolving, transforming, and manifesting. See you soon.